That must be about 1880, that photograph. This is the best photograph of all. That's David Hamilton's house. With a great big massive sign, Storer's Emporium. That was the original site of Storer's Emporium. You'll see it in David's house today, and you can actually see it written under the actual roof there. It's still there, the actual writing and signs down. It must be taken during World War I, or just shortly after World War, maybe about 1915, 1916, this photograph. What the guys in the Army lorries are doing in Letham, I've no idea. Perhaps about an exercise, something like that. I just simply don't know. But it's a lovely photograph. I got that one from Cooper Library. It was taken by the person who lived in my house. Gives you a good view again of the pub and Melville Arms here. It's Melville Arms by this time. And you can see quite clearly the circular seat around the tree. You'll also see the Letham notice board. Actually banged onto the tree itself. And of course, as you know now, it's over on the left of you here as well. This is Storer's Emporium. Slightly further up in what's their name again? Top of the road, David?
Mark and Kay.
Mark and Kay's house. There's a shop in this house as well that I'll show you a photograph of. But look at the state of the road there. Look at the state of the mud in the road. It's obviously winter time with the leaves being off the tree, and it must have been quite unpleasant with all the mud in Letham at that time. I shouldn't really put this photograph in because you've all seen it a million times before, but I just want you to look at David Hamilton's house. That's the famous photograph you can see produced all over the place of the famous Storer's Emporium. The previous one I showed you I think is a bit better. There's the post box, and if you look at David's house, you'll see quite distinctly it's blocked up with the post box there. I don't know who that chap is, anything about it. There's the postman there on his bike, going around collecting and delivering the letters.
He's a doctor.
Pardon?
He's a doctor.
Is he a local doctor, is
yep.
he? Right. I found this next photograph in a school textbook. It's a view down the road. I think about 1870, 1880. But what's interesting is, you see Mark and Kay's house here, that's the white house at the top of the road, was a shop. And even though I've tried with a magnifying glass, I don't know what shop it was. It was some sort of a general merchant shop in here. And of course you've got Storer's Emporium down here, and various other shops down the road. There's two very, very close together here. That house, for some reason, is always built out of extremely black whinstone. It's been painted for a considerable number of years. It's very, very black whinstone it had. It's another earlier photograph of Letham. It shows you mowers in a field. Again, I think it's probably about 1880 there. Everything all done by scythe. And that's the shop I showed you about there in Mark and Kay's house here. You can see Letham Lands in the background there with no harling on it. Again, I'll show you a better picture of that. Christine's house, my old house. That bit is now a great big picture window in Letham Lands. I hate picture windows. Great big picture window in Letham Lands. And that is where all the cakes and the loaves were sold by the bakery. They weren't sold into the bakehouse itself. They were sold. That is the actual baker's shop, that particular bit there. That's the Spence's shop there, which is Mrs. James's house, and the twin trees there as well. Round about here on the road to the Stewart's farm is where there's a well. I've got photographs of the well. It was uncovered when they put main sewage in about 1967. I've got photographs of that well, but it's actually under the road. Not very good quality photograph, I'm afraid, this one, but an interesting photograph. It shows you the village green with some sort of cart with things on it. I don't know what it is. Showing you my old house there. The bakehouse as it was. The gable end of the bakehouse collapsed in the early 20th century and was rebuilt in brick, and of course it's now all been rebuilt in stone. The Spence's shop here at the pub. This is the stables for the pub here. You can see there's a hay loft here, up here. And this is the present day pump that you can see in Letham here. It gives you a good idea of the twin elm trees that were in Letham up until the 1950s. Now here's the best picture of all of Letham. This is the village green, about 1890, 1900, something like that. The first thing is that the village green, its proper name is the Kill Hill. And people call it the Square, which is a horrendous name, and I suspect it was made up by the bus company, the Square. Who wants the Square in Letham? The Kill Hill is a far more interesting name. It was a place where the pigs were killed, because everybody kept a pig in the backyard. Pleased to see that Mitch and Jim have got a couple of pigs now as well, so they can come down there and they can kill them. The reason why it was called the Kill Hill was it was on a slight slope, so therefore everything could drain away in here. So please don't call it the Square, call it the Kill Hill. It's the same area. Is showing you the Kill Hill, not the Square, round about, I think, 1910, you can tell that from the car. There's the Spencer's shop, there's the Melville Arms, and there's the gate that you're all going to look at here. And the road extremely muddy, and the maltings still in existence up the back there. You can just see at the corner here. Remember I told you about the old dairy, which has been demolished? Well, this is about 1910, 1920. The roof is now off this building. For some reason, I don't know why, and you'll see there, that wall there, it still exists as the basis of the wall today, with no opening stone on it. Look how muddy the road is. An awful lot of talk about paths in Letham as well. This path here continued all the way to Moneymale. The whole way to Moneymale, beautifully kept path all the way along. That path is now gone. I know that because as being the president of the Letham Lawnmowers Association, I know all the time. Now, another picture of Bruce here. Before he retired. That's a road guy. An traction engine, about what, 1900, something like that. It gives us a lovely view of what the Kill Hill looked like round about this particular time. See the notice board bashed on one of the elm trees here? My old house here. If you notice, the bakery by this time, the gable end has been replaced in brick, as it was up until fairly recently. The Spencer's shop behind here, and simply just a dirty road there as well. But it's got on it here, Fife County Council Roads Department on it. That's Bruce. Now we'll move on a little bit up in time now, I think actually. We'll leave the 19th century and we'll hit the 20th century. This is a photograph of the west end of Letham. Actually no, it's probably about 1910, this photograph. You can tell it's pre-World War II because the railings are in existence here. That's the people that lived in this house here. I don't know if you know the story about this house. That's the line panes I was telling you about in this house here. This house is far, far later than all the other houses. It was built about 1890. And the reason why it was put there was Letham, the West End, was supposed to end here. This house here, West View, you enter from here. It was called West View because it had a fantastic view looking west. But the house was built by the local estate factor who fell out with the person in that house. There was some big fallout. So he thought, oh, I'll just put my house right there. And he bought the entire field. Another one of my pet grouses. This house is called, a lovely name, Verdala. Today it's called The Bray. But its proper name is Verdala. And it was called that all throughout the 19th century and all throughout the 20th century. And it was all in the 1950s that it was changed to The Bray. Another little grouse as well is this house here, lovely name called The Pleasance, which means green, nice green land where you had dairy and cows and that. Now changed to Mayfield, but it should be called The Pleasance here. You can see the path quite distinctly coming down here, past my house here, and all got path going all the way up to Moneymale, that path there. taken by the chap in my house at RGP Space. Right, we're definitely moving into the 20th century now. That's a photograph of the two wild trees being cut down about 1952, 1953, something like that. My father told me that the trees were diseased. I mean, they were certainly very, very ancient trees, and the decision was taken to take them both down, and the people in Letham could help themselves to their own fire wood beer. The alterations to Letham land have started. The big picture windows been put in, but it's still got the Harling on it, because the Harling wasn't put on until the late 1950s, something like that. That was the bane of my life when I was a boy, because the roof was always off the garage, and my dad just couldn't be bothered, so he preferred to have the garage with the roof just caved in. I never had a roof on it all the time I was there. So that's about 1952, 53, that photograph there. Now we're going to come right up into the present day. We're going to hit the 1960s. That is the road about 1962. And you can see they've just curved the road, but this is still all earthen. There's no tarmac in there at all. But the fascinating thing is a lot of cars. But in the 1950s, there were only 3 cars, or maybe 4 cars in the whole of Letham. And you can see there, that was not a Letham car, that one. I don't know whose car that was. That's Bert Drimple's van he went about in. And Tommy Malone had a wee Austin A35, and that was it in the road. You can just see the garage case there. Can you see it? Yeah. Sorry. This house has been considerably altered. Again, in the 60s or 70s, it had the roof raised up to give an added story, and you'll see the roof level is now in line with this chimney, and it gives it a very incongruous, top-heavy look, but originally that was the way that it looked like. And again, for some odd reason, in the 40s or 50s, it was whitewashed. And all the time I'm here, it was whitewashed, but it's actually been of a very, very dark wisdom. Perhaps that was the reason why, I don't know. Again, this is the early 1960s, this photograph. That's looking up the school brae. Telephone box is still here. That is Annie's famous shop. The famous shop in Letham. They closed down, I think, in the 1970s, something like that, 80s, 1980s, something like that. 80s. Something like that. But there's the shop there, with all that advertising material and etc. The building here was part of the old maltings, and they kept it as a big shed, and that was a rubbish cart. The local Letham rubbish cart stayed in that shed. And then eventually, of course, they demolished the whole thing, but you can still see the bottom here, where the stonework is still actually used. That could be me, but I don't think it is. The legs are far too nice for me. And I don't know who these people are. It's about 1962, that photograph, I think. This will bring a tear to your eye. People like Mary Grosser, Ella Mitchell. That's Annie Webster. The famous shopkeeper, publican, raconteur. She taught me how to swear. I never heard anything swearing, anything like it until I met Annie Webster. Her shop was the most ridiculously run shop you've ever seen in your life. It was never locked. There'd be a little sign in the door, working in garden, just come round the back of the garden. The post office money was mixed up with water. She never used the post office counter, it was just all mixed together. She'd been tripping over boxes, there was cats up in the counter. And she ran it as an illegal pub on a Saturday night. She was licensed to sell beer. And she was definitely licensed to beer and spirits. She certainly was not licensed to run a pub. But every Saturday night at the back shop, you could hear the chink chink of the glasses. And one of the, apart from her father, one of the other main people who went along was Alec Friedman, a local policeman. And I think I've got some photographs of the pub in operation in the back shop in the 1960s. Fantastic character, Annie. She was the one, poor old Annie, that was burgled twice by robbers. And when they came into her shop, came in the middle of the night into her bedroom, woke her up, traumatic experience for her. They tied her up and she gave them such a mouthful, she told them to put the more effing searing coal in the fire or she would die. They actually put the fire on for her, set a fire for her, and instead of getting like 12 years in the jail, they got like 10 years in the jail because they showed a little bit of compassion. But they just were scared. Last photograph I'm going to show you is the Sandstone Hall. Something that really upsets me. And if you recognise that?
Yeah, that's a Kurt Bray.
Yes. That's the Kurt Bray. That's the Kurt Bray in the Great Winter in 1963. These trees exist today. The hedge has been taken away, every single tree's been taken away. Terrible thing that was taken away, and a fit of pique by the local farmer. And what even worse was, we actually moved the fence virtually right to the road, so you cannot put a hedge back, you cannot put any trees back at all. It was the most beautiful tree-lined brae, trees all the way up, lovely hedge, went all the way to Money Mayo, and just simply because he was in some sort of dispute with the people of Letham, he decided to cut the whole lot down. It was illegal, and he was fined 20 quid, something like that, and he moved the fence right to the road. I remember coming along there about 1980 and almost crying when I saw it because it was just such a change, completely bare. And if you didn't know it as it was then, you probably don't think it's just another piece of road today. But it was a beautiful hill going up there to the actual Kurt Bray, and it now just doesn't exist at all anymore. I have approached the present farmer to try and plant some trees there, but the answer is just no. It doesn't want it at all. And that, ladies and gentlemen, actually concludes my talk. All right. Thank you.